So some tips on getting customers. I was watching a couple clips on that earlier. This is kind of what I did. Well, if you go back and watch the construction versus repair welding, I was kind of what got me started in the repair. But I mean, the best way to get customers after doing this for 40 years, I can honestly say, is just to do good work in the first place. If you do shoddy work, man, the word just travels fast. It just, guy was here, his shit broke the next morning. Don't use this guy. I mean, that word just travels real fast. And the repair end, construction too, but it's going to travel probably faster in the repair end. But on the other side of that, if you're doing a good job, your shit don't break, you're there pretty much on time, you're easy to get along with, that word travels fast too. So I've only advertised in 40 years. I only advertised once, and that was early to mid 90s. And I got in the phone book for 2 years. I signed a 2-year gig with the Yellow Pages. That sucked, man. I couldn't wait till that 2 years was up. And the reason being is all these shoddy ass contractors and all these fly-by-night outfits that burned all the local welding shops, and they wouldn't do nothing. The local shops wouldn't do nothing for, half a dozen different contractors and stuff. Well, as soon as I was in the phone book, I was just fresh meat for all these deadbeat contractors. I just got drilled left and right, people calling all the time, and I got burned a couple times, and I finally got to the point where if it was a contractor that would call, I'd call the other welding shops in town and ask them if they'd heard of this contractor before. And more often than not, they were like, yeah, dude, that guy owes me $30,000 from 2 years ago, still trying to get it collected. So, but anyhow, if you're doing good work, the word gets around. And that's, like I said, I advertised for them 2 years, and that's outside of that, I haven't done any advertisement. Did business cards and flyers in the 90s, and I picked up a lot of stuff through the machine shops. Just met a guy at a machine shop, and they needed a little bit of welding, and they handed out a few cards to other machine shops, and that led to doing research and development stuff for, I think it was TUV out of Germany in another town. Did that for a few years for them, doing all their research and development stuff. But it was just the good work, though. If you do good work, people brag you up. They pass your card around. They're glad to bring your name up. You know what I mean? And so that's probably the most important thing, is just doing a good job in the first place. But I'd avoid, times have changed, I'm sure, but like I said, the phone book was a disaster. But I do business cards, hand them out to some of the machine shops, and leave some in the office of the other accounts that I'd already picked up. Other people would come in with problems. Hey, who does your welding? Who fixes your stuff? Oh, this is our welder. He does a great job. Give him a call. So people just started passing it around, and I haven't done any advertising. I'm already slammed for the whole summer. It's just April 2nd or 3rd or something. I'm buried for the next months to come. So, and that's with no advertisement at all. I'm not on Facebook. I don't advertise on YouTube, or YouTube's the only social media I do. I'm not a social media kind of guy, man. And I only do the YouTube just to pass stuff on, because I'm getting old, and I figure, if I can pass some stuff on that I've learned to help other people out, that's awesome, man. That's kind of, to me, what life is supposed to be about. But so anyhow, yeah, that's the most important thing, just doing a good job, and then beat the path a little bit, be friendly, look the part. That's for sure. Get a lot of people that they don't even try to look the part. Show up with purple hair, and one guy showed up one day. He was telling me he was a good welder and all this stuff, and he pulls out his helmet. The freaking helmet didn't even have any headgear. It had a leather shoelace on it, and that's what he was using to keep it hooked over his ears on his head. Well, how flippin' serious are you, man? If you can't afford $20 for some headgear for your goddamn helmet. But yeah, just do a good job in the first place. Focus on your stuff and learn the literature. That's probably the second. Well, if not, that's right up there with the first important thing to do, is learn the literature. And that's what I've always preached to the kids that I taught. I mean, that last kid that I taught, he just went out on his own like a year ago, but he's been in Chicago running a fab shop up there, pulling $100,000 a year. But he learned the literature. He actually ended up being a CWI, and he just sucked it all up. And that's, if you don't learn the literature, then you can't argue a point with anybody. I mean, I can honestly say probably 90% of the people getting the trade these days, they know how to weld, but they can't tell you why what they're doing works to make it happen. You know what I mean? They can't tell you why the polarity's set this way for this, or they all they know is, well, when I do this, it works, you know? So you got to be a lot smarter than that, because we're always going rounds with engineers and other people business-wise, and if you don't know the literature and you don't know what the hell you're talking about, you can't argue your point with nobody for nothing. And they see right through that. It's just like welding. You know, yeah, I've been welding, and as soon as you put the helmet down, well, I know within 2 minutes of your helmet being down whether you've been lying or not. You know, I mean, welding's just one of them things you can't lie through. You can lie, you can brag yourself up all you want, but when the helmet comes down, the proof's in the pudding. And I see that all the time. Oh, I've done this, and I've done structural, and they can't draw a freaking bead. They can't run a vertical. They don't know where to start. So, but learn the literature. You got to know all that stuff. Any alloy that hits 11% chromium's into the stainless category, shit like that, you know. Learn what your ductility and your elongation factors are and your hardness factors, and learn all that and why it's important and why you should use core wire on this instead of hard wire. And you really got to know your game if you're going to advance in the trade. But if you know the literature so that you know what to do when you're performing your job in the field, that's what makes you good. And once you're good, you know, I mean, I don't know how many times I've had people ask me a question, and the next thing I know, they're just going, dude, this is all over my head. You think that's the way to go? Do it, man. It's like, sweet, man. Saves us some time. Let's get after it, you know? So, but it's the most important thing probably is knowing the literature and then applying it and doing good work from there. And if you follow those 2 steps right there, the word will travel around on its own, and you won't need to really advertise much. So, like I said, I'm buried for the rest of the summer right now, and it's only April 2nd or 3rd, so I just got people that know I do good work. They won't let anybody else do anything for them, and they've stacked me up again. So that's all you can do. Hit it as hard as you can, and that's what makes it hard on the repair end for a helper. It's hard to teach a helper everything that you've learned through 38 or 40 years, all the little tricks, and there's so many things that you end up learning through the repair. It's almost like if they weren't with you for a few years, it's really hard to get anything into them. But learn your literature, do a good job, man. You'll be a good welder. Repair is definitely better than construction all the way around. So just put in my 2 cents worth. It's another Sunday working on a train car. Everybody be safe.